1st of December 2022, and this Skidmark is a Warrafak moment for me, and the title of the thing is Warrafak Humanity. The past few days there was a lot of things that happened in the Ukraine, in Europe, in America, here in our own country. Things that deeply disturbs me. And this Skidmark may come as a surprise to many of those that are following my stuff, because you will most probably see a side of me that is not prominent regularly. But today, I'm actually deeply disturbed. What happened to humanity? Where did we go wrong? How did we end here where we are? How did we find ourselves at a place where accepted values, good values, are no longer accepted, and it's no longer the norm? We have turned into a collection of humans that has lost our soul. We see the soldiers in the Ukraine, and we look at each and every one of them, and we look at the collections of them, and we see them fighting, and we see them killing one another, and we see them suffering. But there are always two teams. There's always two teams. And I'm not going to say one is the good guy and the other is the bad guys. That is for yourself to decide. But there are always two teams. And in our daily lives, we are confronted with that same problem. Two teams. And we can see a team fighting for survival, and we can see a team fighting for ruling. In our country, we had a shocker last night with the revelations of Cyril's Pala shit, which is deeply disturbing. This is for me a shocker, but it's not unexpected, because we know that the ANC does not represent good values. But now we have the dilemma: if Cyril goes, who will follow? The problem that we have is that in the potential leadership candidates, there is not a single one of good moral standing, not a single one that carries the responsibility of the country. All of them are vultures. And that brings me back to what's happening in Europe. And that is something that is going to affect all of us, whether we will like it or not. It will. The outcome will affect all of us. The reality is that at this point in time, the Russians, yes, the Russians, is fighting for the survival of their nation. The West, the evil players in the West, has been planning the destruction of the Russians. Not Russia, the Russians, for a very long time. And by the grace of God, they got a president like Putin that realized this. And I don't care if you like Putin or if you don't like Putin. The reality is, he made a decision to ensure the survival of Russia and the Russians. And he had the conviction to execute the command to do what is necessary to save Russia. And in the process, he's obviously saving a lot of Russians in the Donbass and all over Ukraine and so forth. But that is not really what this is all about. What this is about for me is that the West drove a hate campaign, yes, a hate campaign against the Russians. And it is not the Western society, It is the Western leaders. If you look in Europe, who is the big instigator of all this shit? It's that Ursula von der Crazy, or as Alex calls her, the Pirate of Brussels. She is the lead player in the attack on Russia. But she's an evil leader because she is throwing the citizens of the EU into the meat grinder. And they are the ones that will pay. In the Second World War, it was the soldiers that paid with their lives to save humanity from the Nazis. Today, that is forgotten by many. That is wiped out from history, like they did with us here in South Africa. Our Afrikaner history are being wiped out before our eyes. The Russian history is being wiped out by the Europeans. And the analogy for me between what we as white South Africans are going through is just a micro instance or a micro example of what this evil West is doing to Russia and plan to do to Russia. Exactly the same thing. The Russian people has become the target of the Western hatred. And unfortunately for the West, they miscalculated the Russian resolve. And if you look at the following, listen to what the words of this. Thanks to those who fought for the fact that we are alive and we live. Thanks to our elders, having fought half of Europe, and those who gave their lives, thanks for our freedom. Thank you, veterans. Thank you, our heroes. Now, this was text that accompanied a poster I saw on Telegram, and it was a lot of young children paying respects to the World War II veterans. That is the Russian nation. They don't forget their history. They keep it alive because they know that if it wasn't for that history, they would not be here. And now I'm going to play you a short clip of images from that parade where the youngsters paid their respect to the veterans. Look at the images and try and imagine the emotions in those old men that were the recipients. Think about that. Now, in previous Skidmarks, I have touched on many images that I showed you, and I discussed to you the reason why I post the images and so forth. And again today, this is not a standard Skidmark. This is just something from my soul. And then I want you to look at this image. Look at that image. Look at that family. Do you for one moment think war is on the mind of that man? War is in the mind of that woman? No. To them, their togetherness is all that is actually important to them and their lives. But the reality is, there is a group of people in this world, and they fly under the flag of the WEF, that want to destroy this image that you see here. They hate this because they know that that family will not fall for their treachery. That is why that family must be destroyed. That is why they are pushing this gender confusion onto the young children, to break up families like that. That is why they fuck the economy up, so that that woman must go and work and cannot look after that kids, and they must go to school. Once they go into that school, the Satanists has them under their control. Think about that. You have to protect your family. That is what you have to protect. And then the next image. Look at this image. That woman, that old babushka, she's baking bread. She's baking bread for her family because that is her responsibility. Where is her husband? I don't know. He might be in the fields, or he might be on the front, somewhere in a trench. But she do what she has to do. Another thing that the Satanists want to destroy is the care and the love of family. Remember that. And now I'm going to show you a clip. It's also a collection of art pieces done by a Russian woman living in one of the small villages. Look at the images, look at the people, look at what they experience, and see and watch, and you will see the happiness they have. Take a deep breath, be quiet, and just enjoy that. And then we get to this image, and you must look at the image. And it is a very striking image, very good artist. And this is what art does. It unleashes emotions in us. And good art makes you think. And if I look at this image, there's a few questions that I ask myself, and I try to answer it to myself. Let's start at the point. And we look at that girl with her red dress in that stormy weather. And you can see she is walking with a mission. That you can see that she knows where she wants to go. The question is, where is she going? Or where is she coming from? Could it be, and that's because she's got that red dress on, that she has just said goodbye to her sweetheart, and he's on his way to the trenches? Could that be it? Is she walking away from the station? What is in her mind? What's on her mind as she walks there? Is she crying? Is she laughing? I don't know. We can't see it. Then you can look at it from the other point. Where is she going? Look at the determination in her step. Look at that nice red dress, very noticeable in that drab environment, and the white umbrella. Is she on her way to the station to go and meet her sweetheart that is coming back from the trenches? Is she happy? Is she smiling? I'm sure she is. If she's on her way to the station to meet him, she will be laughing there where she's walking. And that is what art does. Art is just a trigger to let your mind go. And for me, it is a very, very, very striking image. And then we have this situation. The nature and natural beauty around us. Do we stand still for a moment and appreciate it? Are we asking ourselves, Where did this come from? How am I looking after this? I'm supposed to be the custodian of this. And I'm going to show you now a series of landscape images by a Russian photographer. I want you to look at it and think as you see the images go by and appreciate it for what it is. And then in the back of your mind, just remember, this is Russia. This is what those soldiers in the trenches are fighting for. We are in a situation, the Russians has been pulled in a war that they really didn't want to fight. They didn't want to fight that war. But now they are there and they're in the trenches, unwilling as they are. But being the soldiers that they are disciplined and under good command. The problem that is now facing the Ukrainians is those Russians in the trenches that don't want to be there. They know the only way they can get back to their loved ones and their families is to wipe out the Ukrainian Nazis. Remember that. That is their ticket to get back to their loved ones. Wipe out the Nazis. And that is what they will do. I cannot understand that the West is financing that war. The reasons I have touched in many of my Skidmarks, and I'm not going to do it here, because this is not the Skidmark for that. In this Skidmark, I want you to think a lot. I'm not going to feed you with news facts and things like that. I want you to open your mind and think. And just remember this, the only way that soldier, that Russian soldier in the trenches there, the only way he can get back to his family and his loved ones is to complete the mission. And although unwilling, he is going to do it because he's a soldier and he's disciplined, and that is what is needed. Now, I want you to look at these beautiful landscapes and enjoy it. And then, in conclusion, look at this image. Technically, extremely well done. Kudos to the photographer. But what are we looking at? Yes, the reality is we're looking at a person in Kiev with no electricity. But what are we looking at here? It can be a woman in Russia, it can be a woman in Kiev, it can be a woman in South Africa, it can be a woman in England, it can be a woman in America. She is sitting there, she's holding a candle. Why? Yes, it's dark. Is she holding the candle to show the way to someone coming back home? Or is she holding the candle, staring into the darkness at the disappearing person that is walking away from her? That we won't know. But it can be true. Both, all of these things can be true. And on this day, all I'm asking is think about humanity. There is thousands of people dead or dying in the Ukraine as we speak here. There are thousands dead or dying in Yemen. There are thousands dead or dying in Syria. Think about that. There are millions in Europe staring through their windows, dark windows, and they don't know if they're going to see the day, because the cold is a reality. The winter is a reality. Not the bullshit that van der Leyen and her cabal is feeding the population. Not the bullshit those newcons in the shithouse is feeding the world. The reality is, it is cold, it is dark, and there is no energy. Think about that. And then in conclusion, never forget, all of this shit has been machined, constructed, and executed by a small portion of Satanists. Yes, I call them Satanists because that is what they are. Don't forget it. Bill Gates, Schwab, Fauci. Don't forget those names. Remember those names. Ursula von der Leyen, Anthony Blinken. Don't forget those names. Joe Biden. Don't forget that name. Those are the people that only want to destroy and destruct. And on that note, I say thank you for your support and thank you for sitting through this. You can give me a like, give me a subscribe if you want to, and I would like to hear your comments. You can give me comments. That is how I can grow, by your comments. Have a great day.